Every night when darkness settles and the stars begin to shine, we can't help but wonder what's really out there. Are we the only ones drifting through this vast, silent universe? For centuries, people from every corner of the globe have seen strange lights darting across the sky, heard stories of visitors from the unknown, and discovered ancient marks that seem to defy all explanation. These mysteries aren't just tales whispered around a campfire. They're stories backed by photos by witnesses, sometimes even by official documents that vanish as quickly as they appear. From the scorched deserts of New Mexico to the misty forests of England, from forgotten stone carvings to modern city skylines, humanity has been touched by the unexplained. Tonight, we invite you to join us on a journey into the heart of these enigmas. We'll sift through the evidence, revisit chilling encounters, and challenge what you thought was possible. Keep your eyes open and your mind even wider as we explore the greatest alien mysteries ever recorded. Are you ready to find out what might be waiting beyond the stars? Roswell UFO, the desert that hides secrets. Imagine a quiet July evening in 1947 deep in the lonely deserts of New Mexico. A violent thunderstorm rages overhead, lightning cracking the sky. Then, a crash. Something falls from the clouds. The next morning, a local rancher named Mac Brazel discovers strange debris scattered across his field, lightweight metal pieces that seem to remember their shape when bent sticks and foil like nothing he's ever seen. The news spreads fast. The Roswell Daily Record prints a headline that would become legendary. RAAF captures flying saucer on ranch in Roswell region. Suddenly, the world's attention turns to this remote corner of America. Military vehicles swarm the site. Uniformed men sweep up every shard, every scrap under the blazing sun. The official statement from the U.S. Army is breathtaking. They've recovered the wreckage of a flying disc. But within 24 hours, that story vanishes. The Army issues a new report. The debris was nothing more than a weather balloon. Nothing to see here. Everyone move along. But rumors refuse to die. Eyewitnesses talk. Ranchers, military personnel, even morticians describe strange metallic materials, tiny symbols like hieroglyphs, even rumors of bodies non-human, eerily silent, whisked away in the dead of night. The press is shut out. Photographs disappear. Files are classified, then lost. Years go by. The Roswell story only grows. Books, documentaries, even secret government memos leak into the public, all pointing to one thing: what really happened in that desert. The Air Force releases another explanation in the 1990s, claiming the wreckage was part of Project Mogul, a top-secret program to detect Soviet nuclear tests using high-altitude balloons. But even this doesn't silence the questions. Skeptics say it's all just Cold War paranoia, the result of wild imaginations and government secrecy. But for many, the details are too strange to dismiss. Why the rapid military response? Why the conflicting official stories? Why did so many locals remember symbols and materials unlike anything made on Earth? Theories swirl. Was it a crashed alien spacecraft quickly covered up to prevent panic? Was it a secret military experiment gone wrong? Or was it simply a weather balloon whose legend grew larger than life? To this day, Roswell remains ground zero for every conversation about UFOs. The desert holds its secrets tight, and those who were there have taken many answers to the grave. As you listen to this story, ask yourself, if something truly extraordinary fell from the sky, how far would authorities go to hide it? Would we ever know the truth? Or are we only left with whispers, half-memories, and a desert that never tells its secrets? The Mystery in the Trees, Rendlesham Forest Incident. It's December 1980. The nights are cold and long in the forests of Suffolk, England, where two massive military bases, RAF Bentwaters and Woodbridge, stand quietly among the ancient trees. For years, nothing much ever happens here. But as Christmas approaches, something bizarre descends into Rendlesham Forest, something that will leave soldiers and skeptics alike searching for answers. In the dead of night, a security patrol spots strange lights pulsing through the woods, moving in ways no plane or helicopter should. Sergeant Jim Peniston and two other airmen push through the thick undergrowth following the flickering glow. What they see stops them in their tracks, a silent, triangular object glowing and metallic resting on the forest floor. The air feels charged. The animals have all fallen eerily silent. Peniston later claims he touched the craft, feeling its smooth, warm surface tracing mysterious symbols with his gloved hand. Just as suddenly as it appeared, the craft rises above the trees and vanishes, leaving behind only broken branches, indentations in the ground, and an uneasy silence. The men return to base shaken and unsure what they've just witnessed. The story could have ended there, but over the next 2 nights the lights return. Dozens of airmen, including the base's deputy commander, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, see beams of light shooting down from the sky, darting between the trees, sometimes passing straight through solid objects. Halt records everything on a handheld tape recorder, his voice a mix of awe and confusion. Later, investigators find unusual radiation readings in the spot where the craft had landed, scorched marks in the soil and trees with branches sheared off. Word leaks out to the press. The incident is quickly dubbed Britain's Roswell, but the official explanations don't add up. The Ministry of Defense says it's nothing, probably just a trick of light from a nearby lighthouse or maybe meteors. Skeptics claim the men were simply confused, stressed by long hours and the dense foggy woods. But the witnesses, some of them highly trained military officers, refuse to back down. Their stories don't change even after decades. Analysis of the original audio tapes and written reports raises more questions. Why did the lights move in impossible ways? Why were the airmen so sure what they saw was no aircraft of human design? And why did the official records disappear only to resurface years later with key details missing? To this day, the Rendlesham Forest incident stands as one of the best documented, most credible UFO encounters in history. The men who were there still insist what they saw was real, and it wasn't from this world. So, what really happened that winter night among the trees? Was it a visitation, a secret military test, or something else entirely? And if the answer is still hiding beneath the shadowy pines of Rendlesham, will we ever find it? Or is this mystery meant to remain forever lost in the forest? The Little Boy and the Strange Visitor. Aoyama Alien Encounter. In the quiet suburbs of Aoyama, Japan, during the early 1970s, life seemed simple. Families lived side by side, children played in narrow streets, and the outside world felt far away. But on a clear summer afternoon, something happened that would leave a small community, and eventually the entire country grappling with a mystery that remains unsolved to this day. It began with a young boy named Hiroshi, who was known among his friends for his boundless curiosity and love for exploring the overgrown parks at the edge of his neighborhood. That day, Hiroshi wandered off near a tranquil pond surrounded by tall grass and wildflowers. He didn't expect anything unusual, but as he crouched by the water's edge, he saw a strange shimmer as if the air itself was bending. Suddenly standing before him was a figure unlike any person Hiroshi had ever seen. It was small, barely his height, with a head too large for its slender body. Its eyes were huge and dark, and its skin gleamed a silvery blue. The creature made no move to frighten him. Instead, it simply stared back silent, almost curious. Hiroshi felt no fear, only a strange sense of calm. As the story goes, the creature and Hiroshi stood facing each other for several long moments. The boy later told his mother that he heard a voice in his head, not spoken aloud, but clear and gentle, asking simple questions about the world around them. Then, just as mysteriously as it appeared, the figure stepped back, shimmered, and vanished from sight, leaving not a single trace. At first, Hiroshi's story seemed like nothing more than a child's wild imagination. But as word spread, other children from the area began to share their own tales of strange encounters of glowing lights, flitting through the trees, of odd symbols etched into the mud by the pond. Local parents, at first skeptical, grew uneasy. Why were so many children seeing the same thing? And why did their descriptions match so perfectly down to the creature's glowing skin and unblinking eyes? Soon local newspapers picked up the story. Amateur UFO researchers flocked to Aoyama, interviewing children, collecting drawings, and trying to piece together the events of that summer. Skeptics argued that it was a case of shared fantasy, fueled by stories and cartoons. But others saw the striking similarities in the children's accounts as evidence that something real had happened, a genuine encounter with a visitor not from our world. To this day, the Aoyama incident stands as one of Japan's most intriguing alien mysteries. Hiroshi, now grown, still remembers the calm he felt that day, the questions he couldn't answer, and the feeling that, for a brief moment, the universe was much bigger and stranger than he'd ever imagined. What really happened by that quiet pond? Was it the power of a child's imagination, or a fleeting glimpse of something beyond our understanding? The answer, like the creature itself, remains just out of reach, waiting perhaps for someone else to notice the shimmer in the air. The Phantom Photographer. Gulf Breeze UFO. Sunset falls over Gulf Breeze, a small, peaceful town on the Florida Panhandle, where the Gulf of Mexico laps against white sand beaches and neighbors wave to each other on the quiet streets. In November 1987, this sleepy community would become the epicenter of a UFO mystery that would ignite headlines, split opinions, and change lives forever. It all began when a local contractor named Ed Walters claimed he'd seen something extraordinary just outside his home. One evening, stepping into his backyard, Ed spotted a dazzling light hovering low above the tree line. He rushed for his camera, his hands trembling, and snapped photo after photo as a disc-shaped craft ringed with lights floated silently overhead. The object pulsed with an eerie blue glow, before vanishing in a blink, leaving nothing but silence and a bewildered witness. But Ed's story didn't end with one sighting. Over the next several weeks, he reported multiple encounters, each stranger than the last. Sometimes the UFO hovered just yards above the ground. Other times it appeared to follow his car late at night, bathing the road in an unearthly glow. Each time Ed produced photographs, dozens of them, showing a classic flying saucer in crisp detail lit by the flash of his camera. Word of the sighting spread like wildfire. Newspapers splashed Ed's photos across their front pages, and TV crews descended on Gulf Breeze. Skeptics and believers alike pored over the images, hunting for signs of trickery or clues to the truth. Some photography experts said the photos showed no obvious signs of manipulation. Others argued that the lighting and shadows seemed unnatural, and that the craft looked suspiciously like a model. As the months passed, more locals stepped forward with their own stories, glowing orbs seen over the bay, strange lights darting between the pines, even accounts of lost time and strange dreams. The town became divided. Neighbors debated in coffee shops and at dinner tables. Was Ed a victim of something real or a master of an elaborate hoax? Investigators combed through Ed's background and property. Years later, when new owners found a model saucer hidden in his attic, skeptics declared the mystery solved, a simple trick with fishing line and clever photography. But some remained unconvinced. How to explain the hundreds of separate UFO reports from others in the area, many made before the model was ever discovered? Why did so many independent witnesses describe eerily similar lights and shapes in the night sky? Ed Walters always insisted his story was true, right up until his final interviews. To this day, some researchers call Gulf Breeze one of the greatest UFO hoaxes ever staged. Others, pointing to the mass wave of reports and the fervor that gripped the town, believe something truly unexplainable visited Florida's quiet coast that year. So, what really happened over the rooftops of Gulf Breeze? Were Ed's photos a clever illusion, or lasting proof that something unearthly brushed against everyday life? In this town by the sea, the answer still hovers out of focus, just beyond the camera's lens. The enigma of the Earth drawings, Nazca lines. High above the arid plains of southern Peru, a landscape stretches out barren, windswept and seemingly empty. But as a small plane soars overhead, the earth below reveals its secret hundreds of gigantic shapes carved into the desert floor. Monkeys, hummingbirds, spirals, and long straight lines so vast they can only be seen from the sky. Welcome to Nazca, home to one of humanity's oldest and greatest mysteries. The Nazca lines have puzzled scientists, adventurers, and dreamers for nearly a century. Discovered in the 1920s by Peruvian archaeologist Toribio Mejia Cespe, these geoglyphs quickly drew the attention of the world. How people wondered, could an ancient civilization without flight, without satellites, design such perfect forms at such a colossal scale? The sheer size is staggering. Some figures stretch more than 200 feet across. There are over 800 straight lines, many running miles without the slightest deviation, as if drawn by an invisible hand. Dozens of animal and plant shapes swirl across the desert. A spider, a condor, a whale. There are geometric mazes, spirals, and trapezoids that look like ancient landing strips or coded messages. No one can say for certain why the Nazca people made these lines. Some archaeologists believe they were ceremonial, meant to please gods who watched from the heavens. The designs may have marked sources of water or mapped the stars above. But in the 1960s, Swiss author Erich von Däniken sparked a global sensation with a bold new theory. What if the Nazca lines were meant to communicate with visitors from another world? Von Däniken pointed to the strange shapes, the runway-like strips, the uncanny precision. He suggested that the lines might be messages or signals to extraterrestrial travelers, giant welcome mats for spaceships, or even blueprints for ancient astronauts to land. The idea captured the world's imaginations, inspiring books, documentaries, and a flood of new questions. Skeptics argue that the lines could have been made using simple tools and careful planning. With a few stakes, some rope, and a lot of patience, it's possible to lay out huge geometric figures. Recent research suggests the shapes may have been drawn as part of massive processions, with hundreds of people walking the designs as a form of worship. Or others believe they're giant astronomical calendars tracking the movements of the sun, moon, and stars. Still, the sense of mystery lingers. Why go to such effort to create shapes that only make sense from the air? Did the Nazca people dream of gods flying overhead? Or were they inspired by something they actually saw? As you gaze down at those sprawling patterns, lines that have survived centuries of wind and sun, it's hard not to wonder. Were these the work of an ingenious ancient culture? Or are they signs of a message meant for someone or something far above the Nazca desert, keeps its secrets etched in stone and sand, waiting for eyes bold enough to read them? The Nightmare on the Back Road, Betty and Barney Hill abduction. On a lonely stretch of highway in New Hampshire, beneath a sky bright with stars, an ordinary couple drove home from a vacation and into the heart of one of the strangest stories in UFO history. Their names were Betty and Barney Hill, and what happened to them that September night in 1961 would haunt them for the rest of their lives and spark decades of debate across the world. It began with a light in the sky. As Betty and Barney headed south on Route 3, a bright star seemed to be following their car. At first they thought it was just a plane or a satellite, but as the minutes ticked by, the light grew larger, closer, and more intense. It darted from side to side, dipping and soaring in ways no ordinary aircraft could. Growing uneasy, Barney pulled over, grabbed his binoculars, and stepped out into the cool night air. Through the lenses he saw something that made his blood run cold. A silent, disc-shaped craft hovering just above the treetops' windows, glowing with pale light. Inside, he glimpsed figures gray, humanoid, watching him with dark, slanted eyes. Panic surged. Barney ran back to the car, shouting for Betty to lock the doors. They sped away, hearts pounding, but the craft kept pace, darting above them, until suddenly a strange buzzing filled the car and their consciousness began to blur. When Betty and Barney finally arrived home, hours had vanished without a trace. Their clothes were torn, shoes scuffed, watches stopped. Both were plagued by nightmares, visions of being led up a ramp into a strange, sterile room surrounded by beings with oversized heads and emotionless faces. The couple described being examined, prodded and questioned, then returned to their car memories, fragmented and confusing. Desperate for answers, the Hills sought help from a psychiatrist specializing in hypnosis. Under trance, they each told remarkably similar stories of abduction, of medical tests of a star map shown to Betty that she would later draw from memory, a map some claim matches the Zeta Reticuli system, a pair of stars nearly 40 light-years from Earth. The story exploded into the media. Skeptics said it was all a dream, the result of stress suggestion, or the influence of science fiction. But the details, the lost time, the matching accounts, the physical traces proved hard to dismiss. The Hills maintained their sincerity to the end, insisting that they hadn't sought fame or fortune, only understanding. Decades later, the Betty and Barney Hill abduction remains one of the most famous and most debated alien encounters in history. It set the mold for thousands of stories to follow: mysterious lights, missing time, otherworldly beings, and lives changed forever. Was it a shared hallucination, the product of imagination and fear, or did something truly unexplainable happen on that dark New Hampshire road? For Betty and Barney Hill, the answer was never in doubt. For the rest of us, the mystery still beckons somewhere out there in the starry night. The day the officials spoke, French UFO disclosure. Imagine a world where generals, Air Force pilots, and top scientists step forward not to dismiss UFOs, but to admit that something truly unexplained is flying through our skies. In France, that world became reality. For decades, the French government has taken the UFO mystery more seriously than almost any other nation, gathering evidence, interviewing witnesses, and most shockingly making much of that information public. It all centers around Gaipan, a division of the French space agency CNES, created to investigate unidentified aerial phenomena. Since the 1970s, Gaipan has collected thousands of reports, pilots startled by glowing discs at 30,000 feet, police chasing objects that darted across highways at impossible speeds, and even cases where radar data backed up what human eyes had seen. But in 2007, France did something most countries only dream about. They declassified and published their entire UFO archive, over 1,600 cases spanning decades. Suddenly, anyone could browse official police sketches, pilot testimonies, and photographs, all stamped with the seal of the French government. The cases ranged from fleeting lights to close encounters so strange they felt like science fiction. At the same time, high-profile conferences in Paris drew international headlines. There, retired Air Force officers and former government officials took the stage. They described how UFOs had tracked nuclear sites, buzzed commercial airliners, and sometimes even outmaneuvered French military jets. One famous case involved the 1994 Air France flight from Nice to London. The crew reported a huge dark object that zipped past their cockpit at astonishing speed. So fast air traffic control never saw it on radar. Of course, not everyone was convinced. Skeptics argued that most sightings were simple misidentifications, weather balloons, rare clouds, or atmospheric tricks. Others said government transparency was just a way to show there was nothing to see here. But the sheer volume of credible witnesses, trained pilots, engineers, gendarmes, gave many pause. These were people with nothing to gain, and sometimes everything to lose by stepping into the spotlight. Scientists in France took the report seriously. Some researchers pored over the Gaypan files searching for patterns. Others built computer models testing whether any known phenomena could explain the odd motions and dazzling accelerations. Time and again they found that a small percentage, about 20%, simply defied explanation. Theories swirled. Was France being visited by advanced technology from beyond Earth? Was it the work of secret human aircraft decades ahead of their time? Or could there be something about our own planet, a rare weather effect? A magnetic anomaly that we simply don't yet understand? What sets France apart isn't just its transparency, it's the willingness to admit that sometimes the official answer is, we don't know. And in a world where so many mysteries are brushed aside, that admission is both chilling and deeply refreshing. So, what do you believe? Are these cases proof that the truth is out there, or just another layer in a global mystery no government can solve? The French files are open. The evidence is there. All that remains is the courage to look. The star map and the grays. Zeta Reticuli mystery. Hidden deep within the most iconic UFO stories is a name whispered by believers and skeptics alike, a distant point of light in the southern sky. The binary star system known as Zeta Reticuli. For some, it's just another speck among billions. For others, it's the cosmic home of the Greys, the small, thin beings with large black eyes whose images have haunted the world's imagination for decades. The story begins in many ways with Betty and Barney Hill. After their harrowing encounter in 1961, Betty described under hypnosis a star map shown to her by the beings who allegedly took her aboard their craft. Later, she would draw this map from memory, a scattering of dots, some connected by lines. At first, it was dismissed as fantasy. But in the 1960s, an amateur astronomer named Marjorie Fish compared Betty's sketch with actual star charts and made a startling claim. The pattern, she argued, matched the stars of Zeta Reticuli, two sun-like stars nearly 40 light-years from Earth. Suddenly, a wild theory took hold. The Greys weren't just figments of imagination, they had an address. Over the next decades, stories of the Greys multiplied. Witnesses described them with chilling consistency. Spindly bodies, smooth gray skin heads much too large, and those deep unreadable eyes. Some claimed to have been abducted, experimented on, or communicated with telepathically. Always the Greys remained elusive, both familiar and utterly alien. Scientists pointed out the problems. Zeta Reticuli is a real system. Yes, but the match to Betty's map was never perfect. Astronomers argued that with billions of stars in the galaxy, it's not hard to find patterns that line up by chance. Others noted that the Greys' features, large heads, small bodies, eerily match how humans imagine future evolution, or even how unborn children look in the womb. Could these visions be born from our own subconscious rather than visitors from beyond? But still the legend grew. In the 1980s and 90s, the Greys became the face of the modern UFO phenomenon. They appeared in movies, books, and even government conspiracy theories. Area 51 Roswell and other hotspots were suddenly linked to secret programs dealing with the Greys and their advanced technology. For many, the image of the Greys, cold, clinical, endlessly curious, became a symbol of humanity's deepest hopes and fears about contact with the unknown. What makes the Zeta Reticuli connection so compelling isn't proof, but possibility. If the universe teems with life, why not there? If visitors are coming, why wouldn't they leave a clue, a map, a name, a warning? Or maybe it's just our need for answers, for stories that make sense of the night sky. Maybe the Greys are mirrors showing us what we imagine waits for us in the darkness. As you listen to this, look up. Zeta Reticuli is out there twinkling unseen. Is it home to beings watching us waiting? Or is it just a star, no different from a million others, given meaning by the mysteries we carry in our own minds? The lights that haunted the night, Phoenix lights. It was March 13th, 1997, a warm, clear night over Arizona. Most people in Phoenix expected nothing out of the ordinary, maybe just a pleasant evening under the stars. But as darkness settled, thousands of residents, from children to grandparents, found themselves looking up at the sky, transfixed by a sight they would never forget. It started as a strange formation of lights on the distant horizon, moving slowly and silently. Witnesses described 5, sometimes 7 glowing orbs arranged in a perfect V shape, gliding over the city in absolute silence. As the formation drifted overhead, streetlights flickered, dogs howled, and people poured into their yards to watch. Some used camcorders, capturing footage that would become iconic, shaky, grainy images of glowing lights passing over the Phoenix skyline. The lights appeared too large, too synchronized, too otherworldly to be aircraft. They seemed to block out the stars behind them, like a single enormous object miles across. Some residents claimed that they could see the shape of a massive dark craft connecting the lights, a silent, slow-moving triangle blotting out the night sky as it passed. Within hours, the local news was flooded with calls. Reporters interviewed eyewitnesses who insisted that what they'd seen was not like any airplane, helicopter, or blimp they'd ever encountered. That night, sightings poured in not just from Phoenix, but from towns hundreds of miles away, along the light's mysterious flight path. The official explanation came quickly. The U.S. Air Force claimed the lights were flares dropped during a training exercise south of the city, but the explanation did little to quiet the debate. Many witnesses insisted the lights weren't just hovering in one spot. They moved steadily, gracefully in formation, and for far too long to be simple flares. Even then, Governor Fife Symington, who first made light of the incident, would later reveal that he too saw the lights and believed they were not of this world. The Phoenix lights became a national sensation, the subject of documentaries, books, and scientific investigation. Video analysts dissected the footage frame by frame, but could not reach a consensus. Astronomers offered explanations involving atmospheric phenomena, while conspiracy theorists pointed to the government's swift and definitive response as evidence of a cover-up. But the most compelling aspect of the Phoenix lights is the sheer number of witnesses. This wasn't the account of 1 or 2 people on a lonely road. It was a mass sighting with thousands of independent reports, all describing nearly the same thing. The diversity of witnesses' backgrounds and vantage points only deepened the sense of mystery. So, what really flew over Phoenix that night? Was it military technology, an unprecedented atmospheric event, or something else entirely decades later? The footage, the memories, and the unanswered questions remain. The truth, whatever it may be, still glows faintly in the Arizona night, waiting for someone to finally bring it into the light. The whispering discs. The mystery of the Dropa stones. High in the misty peaks of the Bayan-Kara Ula Mountains on the border of China and Tibet lies a story that has baffled archaeologists and sparked wild debate for decades. It's a tale of discovery, lost history, and perhaps, just perhaps, a message left by visitors from the stars. This is the enigma of the Dropa stones. It was the late 1930s when a team of Chinese archaeologists, led by Professor Chi Pu Tei, set out to explore a series of ancient caves carved into the mountainside. Inside, they found something extraordinary. Rows of neatly arranged graves filled not with giants, but with hundreds of tiny skeletons, creatures barely 4 feet tall, with oversized skulls and delicate thin bones. But it was what they discovered next that would launch the legend. Scattered across the cave floors were more than 700 circular stone discs, each about a foot wide, with a hole in the center strangely reminiscent of old phonograph records. Etched into the surface of every disc were fine spiral grooves so tiny that they seemed to contain writing almost too faint to see with the naked eye. Some said the grooves were like microscopic hieroglyphics, winding from the center of each disc to the edge. Decades passed before anyone truly examined the stones. In the 1960s, Dr. Tsum Nui, a Chinese researcher, claimed to have deciphered parts of the writing. According to his translations, the discs told the story of a group called the Dropa, beings from another world whose spaceship crashed in these mountains thousands of years ago. Stranded, they made contact with the local tribes, sharing knowledge but struggling to survive in the harsh, high-altitude environment. Skeptics quickly raised their voices. No physical evidence of the stones could be reliably presented to Western scientists. The caves were said to have vanished, the discs lost, and Dr. Tsum Nui himself seemed to disappear from the record. Many dismissed the entire story as a clever hoax or a case of mistaken identity, ancient burial items misinterpreted by modern minds eager for mysteries. But the legend wouldn't die. Over the years, rumors surfaced that a handful of Dropa stones had been displayed in obscure museums, that visitors felt a strange energy when touching them, that the writing on their surface could not be matched to any known ancient language. Some researchers suggested the discs contained high levels of cobalt, making them strangely magnetic. So, what is the truth? Were the Dropa stones genuine messages from extraterrestrial visitors, or simply the product of overactive imaginations and lost in translation archaeology? Are they evidence of an ancient culture whose secrets were buried with them, or just one more story in humanity's endless search for cosmic company? In the cold silence of the Bayan-Kara Ula, caves the discs, if they ever existed, keep their secrets. Whether alien artifact or ancient riddle, the Dropa stones remind us how much remains unexplained, whispering to us across the millennia, daring us to listen just a little closer. The blast from nowhere, the Tunguska event. On the morning of June 30th, 1908, a quiet patch of forest near the Tunguska River in Siberia became the site of one of the most powerful explosions in recorded history. The blast flattened over 80 million trees across 800 square miles, an area larger than any major city on Earth. The shockwaves circled the planet twice, shattering windows and knocking people off their feet hundreds of miles away. Yet to this day, no one knows with absolute certainty what caused the Tunguska event. The story began with a strange light streaking across the early morning sky, brighter than the rising sun. Eyewitnesses, mainly Evenki hunters and herders, described a column of blue-white fire tearing through the heavens, followed by a violent wave of heat and a thunderous roar. The ground shook and the air seemed to ignite. Birds fell from the sky and animals ran wild through the burning taiga. But when scientists finally arrived years later, they found something even stranger. There was no impact crater. The trees for miles in every direction lay knocked down in a radial pattern, pointing away from a mysterious ground zero. At the very center, trees remained upright, but stripped bare of branches and bark, their trunks scorched and glassy. What could have caused such devastation? The leading explanation is that a massive meteor, an asteroid or comet perhaps 100 feet wide, entered Earth's atmosphere at tremendous speed, exploded in an airburst several miles above the ground, and vaporized before ever touching down. The energy released was estimated to be equivalent to 15 megatons of TNT, 1,000 times more powerful than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Yet for some, the official story leaves too many questions. Where are the fragments? Why did no crater form? Why do some soil samples contain rare metals or show traces of intense radioactivity? Over the years, alternative theories have taken root: a miniature black hole, a pocket of antimatter, even an alien spaceship suffering a catastrophic failure. In the 1960s, Russian engineer Alexander Kazantsev speculated that the blast resembled a nuclear explosion far before the world had ever seen such a weapon. Could it have been the detonation of a damaged extraterrestrial craft vaporized in the sky? Or perhaps an intentional act, a warning, or a failed experiment carried out far from prying human eyes? Scientists continue to visit the Tunguska site, searching for answers in the ringed patterns of the fallen trees, in the sediments of the peat bogs, and in the memories of the Evenki, people whose ancestors saw the sky ignite that fateful morning. More than a century later, Tunguska remains a riddle wrapped in fire. Was it simply a random cosmic collision, a reminder of Earth's vulnerability? Or does the answer lie somewhere deeper in the possibility that we are not alone, and that sometimes the unknown comes calling with a bang that echoes through time? The Painted Ancestors, Wandjina rock art, in the remote Kimberley region of Western Australia, where red cliffs rise from the scrub and rivers carve ancient paths through stone, lies a secret older than memory. Here on the walls of caves and under rocky overhangs, people have painted their stories for more than 4,000 years. Some of these images, known as the Wandjina, have sparked debate far beyond the outback, because the faces looking down from these stone canvases don't look entirely human. The Wandjina figures are iconic round heads, huge dark eyes, and no mouths. Their skin is often white, and they're framed by halos or radiating lines. Some appear to float above the ground. Others hold what look like strange tools or are surrounded by patterns that resemble stars, clouds, or streams of energy. To the Aboriginal people, the Wandjina are powerful ancestral spirits, bringers of rain and fertility, guardians of the land. Their images are sacred, refreshed each generation by hand and pigment, keeping their presence alive. But when European explorers first saw these paintings in the 19th century, they saw something different, something eerily similar to the classic alien described in UFO stories around the world. The combination of big eyes, pale skin, and an aura-like glow seemed to echo the very beings reported in modern abduction tales. Some researchers hungry for evidence of ancient contact speculated, could the Wandjina be records of extraterrestrial visitors immortalized in rock by people who didn't have the words to describe what they saw? The mystery deepened with the discovery of other rock art in the region, images of Bradshaw or Guion figures, some with elongated bodies, strange headgear, and tools or devices in their hands. To some, these details look like advanced technology or even spacesuits. For those searching for evidence of ancient astronauts, the Kimberley region became a kind of open-air museum of unsolved riddles. Yet the traditional custodians of this land insist on another truth. For them, the Wandjina are not aliens, but spirits beings from the dreamtime, a sacred era when the world was shaped and ordered. Their appearance is not literal, but symbolic. The eyes and the glow represent power and connection to the sky, not visitation from another planet. Outsiders, they say, too often misunderstand reading science fiction into what is really spiritual lore. Still, the questions linger. Why do such similar images of otherworldly beings appear across cultures and continents, from Australia to the Americas, from the caves of Europe to the deserts of Africa? Are we simply projecting our own modern anxieties and fascinations onto the past? Or is there a deeper connection that even the ancients felt? The Wandjina look down from their stone walls, serene and silent, as they have for thousands of years. Whether ancestral spirits, mythic guides, or echoes of something not of this earth, their mystery endures, etched in ochre, waiting for each new generation to wonder. Secrets on the Moon, Apollo, and the Alien Question. On July 20th, 1969, the world watched in awe as Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin took humanity's first steps on the moon. Every movement was beamed live to millions of viewers. The story everyone thought was as simple as it appeared: brave astronauts, a new frontier, and the triumph of science over the impossible. But hidden behind the grainy footage and heroic headlines are whispers, rumors that something else watched the Apollo missions from the shadows. It started with odd transmissions. As Apollo 11 drifted above the lunar surface, ham radio operators around the world reported picking up strange snippets of conversation between Houston and the Eagle lunar module. Some claimed they heard Armstrong and Aldrin describing mysterious objects standing at the edge of a crater, watching us, they allegedly said before the feed was cut. NASA, of course, has always denied that any such exchange took place. Yet the rumors refused to fade. In later missions, Apollo 12, Apollo 14, and beyond astronauts reported seeing flashes of light, strange moving shapes, and sometimes even bogies tracking their path around the moon. Debriefings mention unknown objects glowing or darting over the horizon, moving with a speed and silence that no human technology could match. Some footage, flickering silent, shows unexplained lights in the background, their source never fully explained. Was it ice crystals? Static? Just the tricks of a harsh lunar environment? That's what NASA said, always quick with a technical explanation. But some astronauts, decades after their return, let their guard down. Edgar Mitchell, the sixth man on the moon, publicly stated his belief in extraterrestrial life and hinted that governments know more than they admit. Others described a sense of being watched on the lunar surface, a feeling of presence that science can't quantify. As the Apollo missions continued, stories of secret transmissions and redacted tapes became part of UFO folklore. Conspiracy theorists pored over hours of film and radio logs searching for gaps, moments when just for a few minutes the public feed went silent. Did NASA really have a private channel where astronauts could report anything too strange for public ears? No one has ever found hard proof, but the rumors only grew. Then there are the images, official NASA photos showing odd shapes on the horizon lights, where there should be none, shadows that seem to move against all logic. Critics argue these are just camera artifacts, reflections, or cosmic rays. But for some, they're the best evidence we have that humanity was not alone on the moon. So, what did the Apollo astronauts really see out there in the Sea of Tranquility? Was it tricks of light and imagination, or something watching, waiting, and keeping its distance? The answers, like so many lunar footprints, are faint and fading. But as long as there are questions about the moon, there will be those who wonder if the greatest discovery wasn't just rocks and dust, but a silent cosmic neighbor looking back. Eclipse under watchful eyes, Mexico City, UFO, 1991. On July 11th, 1991, Mexico City was buzzing with anticipation. For the first time in decades, a total solar eclipse would plunge the capital into an otherworldly darkness in the middle of the day. Thousands poured onto rooftops and balconies armed with cameras and protective glasses, eager to witness the celestial spectacle. But as the moon's shadow swept across the city, another kind of wonder began to unfold, one that would send shockwaves through the world of UFO investigations. As the sky darkened and stars emerged, dozens of video cameras set up to film the eclipse accidentally captured something far stranger. Hanging motionless in the sky above the city's iconic buildings was a glowing metallic object. Unlike a plane or a bird, it didn't move or drift. It simply hovered, reflecting the last rays of the sun, as the crowds watched both the eclipse and the mysterious visitor. Within days, local news stations aired the footage. The videos were remarkable. A circular craft shining like polished steel, recorded from multiple locations, by different people, all from different angles, all showing the same object in the same place. In some tapes, you can hear people gasping, shouting and pointing upward, caught between awe and disbelief. Soon, dozens more tapes surfaced. Teachers, children, engineers, tourists, ordinary people from all walks of life came forward with their own eyewitness accounts. The Mexican government at first tried to downplay the event, but the evidence kept piling up. Television host Jaime Maussan, an early UFO investigator, collected and compared the videos, confirming their authenticity. Unlike so many sightings, this was not just a case of a single blurry photo. This was a mass sighting captured from all across one of the world's largest cities during a public event, with no chance to fake or stage the moment. Skeptics searched for explanations. Some said it was a weather balloon reflecting sunlight at just the right angle. Others suggested it was a trick of camera glare or a secret military drone. But none of the traditional answers quite fit the facts. The object's shape, its stillness, its apparent size, and most of all, the sheer number of independent recordings made the Mexico City sighting unique. In the years since the 1991 eclipse, UFO has become a case study for investigators. Some consider it the best documented daylight UFO event in modern history. For others, the very public nature of the sighting, happening in broad daylight with thousands of witnesses, challenges the idea that such mysteries can always be explained away. So what really appeared in the sky over Mexico City that day? Was it a trick of the light, an unidentified object, or a visitor drawn to the spectacle of the eclipse itself? As long as the tapes exist, and as long as the questions remain, the 1991 Mexico City UFO will hover unanswered in the minds of all who look up and wonder. The farm where reality breaks, Skinwalker Ranch. In the wild, lonely heart of Utah's Uinta Basin sits a piece of land with a reputation so chilling, locals barely whisper its name, Skinwalker Ranch. For generations, tales have swirled about this stretch of high desert stories, of lights darting over the fields, beasts that vanish in the blink of an eye, and encounters with the unknown that leave even skeptics shaken. Here the line between UFO mystery and the supernatural blurs, and the question isn't just, are we alone? It's, what else is out there? The legend begins long before UFO was a household word. Native American Ute and Navajo people spoke of skinwalkers, shape-shifting witches able to transform at will who haunted the land. Locals claimed the ground was cursed a hot spot, where the veil between worlds grew thin. But the real storm of mystery erupted in the 1990s when the Sherman family bought the ranch hoping for a peaceful rural life. What they found was anything but ordinary. Almost immediately, the Shermans experienced a barrage of bizarre events. One evening, a massive wolf far larger than any natural predator appeared at their corral. Bullets seemed to have no effect. The animal simply wandered off, leaving tracks that ended abruptly, as if it had vanished into thin air. Strange lights began to appear above the fields at night, moving with impossible speed and silence. Livestock were found mutilated with surgical precision, drained of blood with no tracks or clues left behind. As the stories grew, they caught the attention of billionaire Robert Bigelow, who bought the ranch and set up a team of scientists hoping to study the phenomena under strict observation. Cameras, sensors, and teams of researchers descended on the ranch. What they found only deepened the mystery. Instruments malfunctioned for no reason. Cameras aimed at a spot where strange lights were seen would cut out always at the crucial moment. Experienced scientists witnessed unexplained aerial objects, portals opening in midair, and creatures that defied biology. The government took notice. The Pentagon secretly funded a project, the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, to monitor Skinwalker Ranch and its bizarre happenings. What did they find? Most of those reports remain classified, but leaked documents and interviews hint at technologies and events that challenge everything we know about physics and reality. Skeptics offer down-to-earth explanations, misidentifications, hoaxes, or mass hysteria, but the sheer weight of testimony from ranchers to PhDs resists easy dismissal. Even the most hard-nosed investigators have left the ranch, convinced that something or many things are at work, things we do not yet understand. Is Skinwalker Ranch a playground for alien visitors, a portal between worlds, or simply a canvas for humanity's oldest fears and wildest imaginations? The answer may be as elusive as the lights that flit through the Utah night, but for those who have walked the ranch, the mystery is all too real, and it's still unfolding just beyond the next fence line. The object beneath the waves, the Baltic Sea anomaly. Beneath the cold, churning waters of the Baltic Sea lies a mystery that to this day confounds divers, scientists, and armchair detectives across the world. It was June 2011 when a team of Swedish treasure hunters, the Ocean X team, set out to search for old shipwrecks and sunken cargo. What they found instead was something no one expected: a vast, oddly shaped object sitting silently on the seafloor like a relic from another world. Their sonar scans revealed a formation unlike any typical rock or wreck. The anomaly was almost perfectly circular, roughly 200 feet across, and stood some 12 feet tall. Its outline reminded many of the Millennium Falcon from Star Wars: rounded edges, long lines, and what looked like ramps and right angles features, rarely if ever seen in natural stone. Images showed straight, narrow grooves leading to the object, as if something massive had slid to a stop before coming to rest on the ocean floor. The first photograph sent the internet into a frenzy. Was this the remains of a sunken spaceship, a lost artifact from a forgotten civilization, or just a very unusual rock? Theories blossomed. Some suggested it was a crashed UFO hidden for thousands of years beneath the waves. Others pointed out that the Baltic Sea was once covered in glaciers, and that perhaps the formation was the result of powerful ice sheets grinding rock into strange shapes during the last ice age. But the more the Ocean X team explored, the weirder things seemed to get. Divers reported that their equipment, satellite phones, cameras, even compasses, would malfunction when near the object, only to return to normal once they left the area. Samples taken from the site included materials that geologists said were out of place for the Baltic region, metals and minerals that sparked even more speculation. Skeptics argued that the anomaly was nothing but a natural geological formation. Volcanic rock, they said, can sometimes fracture and erode in unexpected ways, creating straight lines and geometric shapes. The tracks leading to the object could be explained by glacial movement. But the Ocean X team wasn't convinced. Their own observations, along with the persistent technical malfunctions and the object's unnatural symmetry, kept the mystery alive. For believers, the Baltic Sea anomaly remains one of the strongest candidates for a genuine underwater UFO, or at least for evidence of an ancient technology lost to time. For others, it's proof that even today the ocean still hides secrets that defy our understanding. So, what really lies beneath those frigid waves? Is it the relic of a distant past, an alien craft stranded in the deep, or just the ocean playing tricks on our imagination? Until more daring explorers return, braving the cold and darkness, the answer will stay locked away, silent, enigmatic, and waiting beneath the surface. The night terrors of Colares, Brazil's UFO siege. On the northern coast of Brazil, where the Amazon River meets the sea, lies the small fishing town of Colares. In 1977, this peaceful community became the epicenter of one of the most bizarre and unsettling UFO incidents in modern history. A wave of sightings and encounters so intense they drove locals to panic and forced the Brazilian military to step in. It began with lights in the sky. Night after night, strange orbs hovered above the town, and the beaches darting silently, shifting from red to blue to white. Sometimes they would descend close, frighteningly close. Witnesses described beams of light shining down from the crafts, moving with intelligence, tracking people as they ran for shelter. The townspeople named the phenomenon Chupa Chupa, the sucker, because of what came next. Dozens of locals reported being struck by these mysterious beams. They would feel a sudden paralysis, unable to move or cry out as the light scanned over their bodies. Many victims suffered burns, puncture marks, and even strange bruises. Some complained of severe weakness, headaches, and in some cases lifelong health problems that began the night they encountered the lights. Fear swept through Colares. People huddled in groups at night, set fires, and banged pots and pans, desperate to scare the lights away. Many refused to leave their homes after dark. As panic grew, the Brazilian Air Force launched Operação Prato Operation Plate to investigate. For months, military teams camped in Colares, equipped with cameras, notebooks, and specialized equipment. The officers themselves reported seeing the lights sometimes at close range and photographed objects they could not identify. Secret reports compiled during the operation included detailed sketches, witness statements, and a series of eerie photographs showing glowing discs over the water and the jungle. The official conclusion: the lights were real physical phenomena, but what caused them, no one could say. The Air Force wrapped up its operation, and much of the evidence disappeared into classified archives for decades. Only in the 1990s did some of the documents and photographs become public, reigniting debates across the UFO community. Skeptics argue that the Chupa Chupa was nothing more than mass hysteria fueled by fear and rumor. Others blame weather anomalies, atmospheric plasma, or unknown military technology. Yet for the people of Colares, the scars are real, the memories vivid, and the questions haunting. Was Colares the target of an extraterrestrial survey? A test site for secret technology? Or did the townspeople find themselves caught in the crossfire of natural forces beyond our understanding? To this day, the mystery remains unsolved. The stories told in Colares, whispered as night falls, are a warning and a wonder, a reminder that sometimes the darkness is alive with things we cannot explain. Our journey through the world's greatest alien mysteries comes to an end for now. But as we turn away from these stories, the questions only grow deeper. Are these sightings simple mistakes and tales spun by imagination, or are they clues scattered across continents and centuries pointing toward a greater truth? Perhaps the answers lie hidden in the night sky or deep within the secrets we're not ready to face. One thing is certain, the unknown still calls to us, daring us to look up, to wonder, and to keep searching. So what do you believe? Could the next great mystery be waiting just beyond your own backyard? The truth may be out there closer than you think.